round of initiation. I don't know how many rounds. I forget how many rounds there are, and there is a profound significance connected with the expression, the serpents of wisdom, which is applied to all adepts of the good law. Good law, okay? So if you are an adept of the good law, then you could be considered a serpent of wisdom. Now, the reptile kingdom, she says, has an interesting place in all mythologies and all ancient forms of truth impartation. It's interesting to know. And this for no arbitrary reason. There is an underlying truth which is hidden in the karmic history of our planetary logos. So you really have to understand the metaphysical side of the universe, the non-physical, to understand this kind of stuff. She says this is the basis for that activity we called evolution energy. The heavenly serpent manifested, being produced out of the egg, and began its convolutions, gaining strength and majesty, and producing through its immense fecundity millions of lesser serpents. The reptile kingdom is the most important part of the animal kingdom, for all animal life can be seen passing through it during the prenatal stage. That is, you and I have a reptilian aspect to us. It is deep within our brain, and it is called the reptilian core. It is the part that provides us with the automatic instincts of survival and the very basis of our instincts. The connection is not purely a physical one, but it is also a psychic one. The secret of life lies hidden in the serpent stage. Not the life of the spirit, but the life of the soul. And this will be revealed as the serpent of the astral light is duly studied. So they have to study the serpent of the astral light in order to graduate from this mystery school. Give you another slide to look at. That's kind of the back view of the head with the third eye. It has to do with the subject of the third eye and its relation to the spine. This third eye is one of the objects of kundalinic vivification. The first center is at the base of the spine, the home of the sleeping fire. At the summit of the spinal column and surmounting all that small organ called the pineal gland, which when vivified causes the third eye to open and the beauties of the higher, subtler planes to stand revealed. Wow. You read this, written in 1925, you read Dr. Strassman's book, DMT, the Spirit Molecule, and they just go hand in hand. The opening of the third eye is the way that shamans and psychics are able to transverse our reality and see through the illusion of the physical reality. I thought that was neat. See how much time I have. Okay. Another book that I would recommend for you is this one, The Cosmic Serpent. I think this is an absolute must-read book for everyone in this field. I will tell you just briefly, this is a book called, with the subtitle, DNA and the Origins of Knowledge. Written by Jeremy Narby, N-A-R-B-Y, PhD, who is a Stanford University educated anthropologist. And he, as a young 25-year-old graduate student, went down to the Amazon to do a dissertation on how the native peoples learn the different uses of plants. And he started talking to the experts, who are the shamans. And the first one he talked to said, well, I'll tell you how we know. We drink ayahuasca, and we meet with other beings, and they tell us how to use these plants. And he looked at the guy's face, and he says he wasn't smiling. He was serious. But as a 25-year-old graduate student of anthropology, he was not prepared to accept that. And so he kept asking other people, and he kept getting the same answer. And so finally, even though he knew he shouldn't, he says, well, there's only one way to find out. And he took some ayahuasca. He participated with a shaman and took some ayahuasca. All right? Well, that was an experience for Professor Narby, soon to be Professor Narby. He says, when he took this brew, I found myself surrounded by two giant boa. If you can see the serpents like dancing together there in the upper left-hand corner. This is a representation of a shamanic vision and a shamanic journey by a Peruvian shaman named Pablo Amaringo. And if you get the book that has these drawings, they're beautiful. It's called Ayahuasca Visions. Well, this is what Jeremy Narby saw. He says, I found myself surrounded by two gigantic boa constrictors that seemed 50 feet long. I was terrified. Then the snakes started talking to me telepathically. They explained to me that I am just a human. I feel my mind crack, and in the fissures I see the bottomless arrogance of my presuppositions. It is profoundly true that I am just a human being, and most of the time I have the impression of understanding everything, whereas here I find myself in a more powerful reality that I do not understand at all, and that in my arrogance I did not even suspect existed. It seemed as if my last link to reality had been severed. Reality itself seemed to be no more than a distant, one-dimensional memory. And the thought entered my head. The boa constrictors were saying this to him. Poor little human being who has lost his language and feels sorry for himself. He says, I never felt so completely humble. So he became a believer in the shamanic way and in other realities, and wrote a wonderful book about this, which I could go on for an hour. Here are some other drawings from the Peruvian shaman's work. This is a healing ceremony, and it's hard to see in this picture, but there are all kinds of beings. This guy's doing a healing on a psychic healing on somebody, but there's all these other beings over here on the side. There's these like kings, and there's these angelic beings, and then if you see up in the behind in the air, you can barely see there are some flying saucers. Okay, and that's the flying saucers, close-up of the flying saucers. So many shamans who experience ayahuasca or other brews say that in these other dimensions, when they travel, that they meet extraterrestrials. And so UFOs are a big part of the shamanic experience. So here we go.